Well, welcome back to our series of videos here on YouTube where we are running through the chapter reviews of our various chapters of Packet Tracer for CCNA studies. And it's time to tackle another easy one. Should be easy for us. This is Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is just on the very basic operations of our switches. And this fun little review lab is going to hit upon how these basic layer 2 switches function. So notice what we're going to do in this lab. This is another one that does step-by-step because it is the only lab of this chapter. So the review is going to guide us through. But notice what we're doing. We're going to ping from R1 to R2. And if you look at the second task, we're going to be looking at the MAC address table that is on that switch 1 device. So we are creating traffic through that switch so that we can see layer 2 MAC address information. If we go and take a look at that switch right now and attempt the show MAC address table command, we'll see, oh, look at that. There was something that was heard through the Fast Ethernet 0/1 port, and so it knows of the R1 MAC address, but notice we don't have the R2 MAC address. Yeah, so to make sure the MAC address table is fully populated, they have us go in and, my goodness, my mouse is acting up again. Anyways, they have us go in and ping R2. But wait a minute here, we need the IP address that we can ping on the R2 device. So the first thing I need to do is go over to R2 and how about a show IP interface brief? Sure, we need to get the IP address that we need to ping. So I do believe it is this 10.12.12.254. Let's copy that to the clipboard and then verify that that is the R2 address we need to ping. It's 0/0, and let's see where that is in our diagram. Yes, it's the 0/0 interface. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to R1, and I'm going to succeed with the step 1, which was to ping the R2 device. And we've got that on the clipboard. So there we go, we ping, and we successfully communicate with the R2 device. Notice that first dropped packet. That is a simulation of the ARP process by Packet Tracer. Yeah, so in the real world, we would have to ARP for the MAC address of the device with this IP address, and that is demonstrating what you would often see in the real world. There's going to be a dropped initial packet due to the address resolution protocol delay, if you will. All right, so we have accomplished step 1, and you now know why we do step 1. It's so when we go to switch 1 and we run our show MAC address table command, show MAC address table, we see the MAC address of the R1 device off of Fast Ethernet 0/1 and the R2 device off of Fast Ethernet 0/2. In fact, I need to, in step 3, copy that MAC address to the clipboard. Now, just so you know, on different Cisco switches, the show MAC address table command will be in different formats. I've seen it like that, where there is no hyphen at all. I've seen it where there's a hyphen between each of the keywords there. So just be ready for some flexibility in the real world as you move from Cisco switch to Cisco switch with that show MAC address hyphen table command. Yeah, there can be a lot of variety with it. Okay, so what is our next step? Our next step is to go to R2 and create a description for the gig 0/0 interface that reads MAC address, where MAC address is the address we copied. Wow, okay, so we're going to go to interface. Oh, first of all, I got to use enable to get into privilege mode. Then I'll do configure terminal, and then we'll get into that 0/0 interface. And the command we need is simply description, and then we're going to paste in that MAC address. All right, so I'm going to carriage return, and do we verify? Sure, we can verify. How about show interface gig 0/0? And if we look in this output near the top, we should see the description. And there is the description, which is the MAC address. I will hit Q to quit, and I will save my configuration with the WR shortcut. Okay, now what do we need to do? We need to go to R2 and ping R3. It looks like we're going to do the same thing over in this portion of the network. So let me go over to R3, and I'll do my show IP interface brief, and I'll get the IP address that we need. Over here, it's much easier. There's only one. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go over to R2, and I am going to ping that address. And we should see that initial failure, then success. Fantastic. And now we are going to go to switch 2 and run our show MAC address command. So show MAC address -table is how that command works on this device. And which MAC address do we need? It says copy the MAC address of R3 from this table. So that is off the Fast Ethernet 0/2. Yep, that's off the Fast Ethernet 0/2 interface. So it's this MAC address right here. I think this is a little too basic for your CCNA exam, of course, but if we ever had something like this in your CCNA exam, you see where you could go wrong. Yeah, you could very easily copy the wrong MAC address and paste that in for a description on the wrong interface. So this lab really has us being very careful about where we enact certain things. All right, I'm going to do step 8 now. I'm going to go to R3, and I'm going to go to enable, then configure terminal, then the gig 0/0 interface, and I'm going to use the description command, and I'm going to paste in the MAC address. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to end. I don't think we need to verify. I'm going to go ahead and save my configuration. And what else do we need to do? Save the configurations on R2 and R3. Of course, I already did that. Yeah. And I save my configurations as I go because I want to make sure in the CCNA exam environment, I always have my configurations saved. So a neat little lab just showing us the very, very basics of switching. We did some pinging through these switches to populate those MAC address tables, and then we went in there and we got some MAC addresses off of those devices. Well, my fingers are crossed. Let's hit the check results button. I'm thinking we scored perfect in this very, very straightforward lab, and we did. We succeeded with all of the assessment items. Well, they're going to ramp up in difficulty, these labs, as we go. And I think what will be on tap for us next is to get in and do some trunking between our switches. So I hope you'll be joining me for the next review lab from our text on CCNA with Packet Tracer. Thanks so much for watching.